I'm Bob Bakert with Jazz Guitar Today, and we're here today with Ted Ludwig, and we're very excited about having him here. But before we get started with that, I got to do my little ad. Jazz Guitar Today shirts. You can help support us by picking up a shirt or picking up a mug. We don't ask for much. And you can please subscribe to the magazine. It's free. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's also free. And like us on Facebook and follow us, and we can continue to provide this content. That being said, so all right, we said so how are you? Talk to me.
Doing good, staying busy. Things are starting to come back, which is great. So looking forward to doing some playing and doing some teaching and everything else, some traveling.
Cool. Well, you got a lot going on. You sent me a little bit of things that you're into. You've got your Jazz at the Joint Jazz series. Let's talk about that a little bit. What's happening there?
Well, that it actually is sort of, it's a music series that we started in 2019. It actually the idea started in 2018 with a concert that I did with Peter Bernstein and some folks from Akansa, which is a nonprofit arts organization out of Arkansas. They're out of Little Rock. They wanted to do something on this line every month. So starting in 2019, we actually started a monthly series. And we've had, of course, COVID kind of shut down our operation for a while, but we're starting back up next month. We've had guests like, Jimmy Bruno's come, my dear friend David Gilmour, the great Steve Mazakowski. These are some of the guitar players who've come to do it. Barry Green's come down, Steve Herberman, Tim Lurch, and lots of guitar players. Of course, some wonderful, musicians from other instruments, such as like Joel Fromm and Tony DeGrati and John Coward. It's been really great.
And you do that every month?
Every month, but it's grown now to where we not only have a venue in Little Rock, which is it's actually in North Little Rock. It's called The Joint, and we call it Jazz at the Joint. It's also, we have a venue in Memphis, and that's called the Green Room. And the series is called something different here. We call it Modern Masters of Jazz here. And so my group is sort of the backup group, and we bring in special guests to come and feature. And which I just finished my list for this coming year. So we have, as far as guitar players, we have Mike Moreno's coming in October. Peter Bernstein's coming back in January. Really wonderful guitarist that a lot of people have not heard of. Well, maybe some have, but a guy named Tom Guarna. He's coming in March, really incredible player. And he should be more widely recognized. Of course, the great Jimmy Bruno's coming, Dave Stryker's coming. A friend of mine from Chicago who are kind of
every one of those guys but one has been on the cover of Jazz Guitar Today.
Oh yeah, and then a guy that from Chicago that maybe some have not heard of, but he's a really fine player, is a guy named Tim Fitzgerald. He's going to come down. He's one of the heavier cats in Chicago on guitar, and I wanted to feature some Chicago musicians, so I'm bringing him down.
So how do people, what is the URL to find that? What website? How can they find you?
You can go to jazzatthejoint.com.
Jazzatthejoint.com.
Jazzatthejoint.com. And I think they post the concert through the Akansa. It's ACANSA, Akansa Arts Festival.
Right.
And now I don't think the new schedule has been posted yet. I just turned the schedule in earlier this week.
Right.
So I would imagine that in the next up and coming week or two, we should start to see it, being posted.
As people move around, as they start to, hopefully we get through this post-COVID thing and people start moving around, and they're piling through, your area, they may say, hey, you know what, we're going to go, check this out, or make you part of their destination, so that's really cool. Jazzatthejoint.com. We'll remember that for sure.
Sure.
So we'll talk about a couple other things you had mentioned to me. You got a new album coming out. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to be recording this album next month. I'm using some really wonderful musicians on it. In fact, we're doing a concert for the Akansa Festival, and that's going to be third week. It'll be the third Thursday of August, and then that group, we're going to go into the studio and actually do a recording.
Right.
So it's a great opportunity to get to perform with the group, rehearse and perform, and then go into the studio.
Now, what kind of tunes will you do for that? What do you got the material selected?
Well, I have a few original pieces, three of which I've kind of written over the pandemic, and then I have a couple of tunes that from musicians that I really love, love their music. I'm going to do a tune by Steve Mazakowski, which I love his music, and he was my teacher and mentor, so I'm going to do one of his tunes called What It Was. And then, of course, being from New Orleans, which is my hometown, I wanted to feature some music from some great New Orleans artists. One being Harold Batiste. We're going to do a tune by Harold called Beautiful Old Ladies. And of course, the legendary Ellis Marsalis. We're going to do one of his songs. And then maybe a couple of standards. I was thinking maybe In Your Own Sweet Way, and a Horace Silver tune called The Jody Grind. And so we're going to do, it'll be pretty evenly spaced out, where it'll be, three originals, three sort of non-standard pieces that are really great, and then three or four, standards.
So that'll be cool. Look forward to that. So let's talk about your playing for a minute.
Sure.
First of all, I would be remiss if I didn't ask about the guitar you have in your hands. What's going on with that? Talk to me about that.
Well, this particular instrument, this is the guitar I find myself using quite a bit. Although I have, three guitars I use on a very regular basis. This guitar was built by the legendary luthier Linda Manzer. Is her headstock, of course. It's very recognizable.
She is a legend, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and so I actually met her at a guitar show in Woodstock, New York, at the Luthiers Invitational, Woodstock Luthiers Invitational, and I played one of her instruments, and it was a love affair. I just couldn't put the guitar down.
Well, not only does she, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and so we had, we kind of struck up a relationship, a friendship, and she said, I would really love to build you an instrument. And I said, I would, really love to commission an instrument from you. So we talked out some details about the instrument. Of course, I wanted 7 strings. I'm a 7-string player.
Right.
And we talked over some details over the design elements of this instrument. It's very traditional. It's very similar to what, what would be more her traditional style archtop. But it's very balanced, very clear sound. I really love the sound of this guitar.
I love that bass.
It's so balanced. And the thing that really blows my mind about this instrument is how great it sounds in the upper range. Like a lot of guitars, I find that I've played don't sound like this in the upper range, but I mean, you believe that? And the access into the upper range is really incredible. I mean, I can put my hand comfortably in, in here, and hit the highest note by just simply just a little pivot of the hand,
right?
And I'm hitting it. I actually passed it up, and those notes just jump.
So for people who aren't familiar with 7-string, are you using a low E? I mean, excuse me, a low B or a low A, or what?
It's actually a low A, and that's the way it originally was designed by the great George Van Epps, is
Mhm.
to sort of be a lower, range, so that the thing that I really figured out pretty quickly about the 7-string was that when I would play a chord, like let's say I was playing, I don't know, an A minor 7. To me, that sounded good because the bass was down and it was kind of separated away from the guide tones of the third and seventh. So in
Sure.
this case, the seventh and the third of the chord,
Right.
But when you get to say like a D9, it didn't have the same effect because the bass note was kind of close to the guide tones, which
Right.
is so by bringing this down an octave,
Right.
it sounds much better. It sounds less cluttered. The chord,
Mhm.
the chord does. But get a difference. And so what it really is it's your fifth string down an octave.
Right.
And I hear people tell me all the time, well, man, I like the 7-string and all, but I have enough trouble with 6.
Right.
Well, here's the great news. This is a 6-string.
Mhm.
It's a 6-string. I got all the same notes that a 6-string has. It's just
Mhm.
got an extended bass. So a lot of guitarists sort of shy away from the 7-string because I think they
Right.
feel like, well, I can't get used to it. But it's actually very easy to get used to. So it's basically your fifth string down an octave. So if I'm playing this,
Mhm.
so I go, instead of playing here, I just bring it down here. See what I'm saying?
You're going to increase the demand for 7-string guitars with that explanation. That's a good thing.
Yeah, and so it just expands your ability to
Yeah.
have the bass range, and it actually opens up your chords. So where you take a simple chord that everyone plays, like a D sus chord here,
Mhm.
and by separating that bass and bringing it down an octave,
Right.
see how the chord now becomes more clear.
Right.
And then of course,
Right. You don't have what some people refer to in different world as intermod distortion. You don't have two very, very close things fighting with each other for space. You're separating it out on the
by getting
spectrum.
that separation. So,
Yeah.
and it's actually, some people say, well, how long does it take to learn the 7-string? And
Right.
really, it's more of a visual thing. If I were to put a 7-string in your hands and you go, oh, Ted, I don't really play 7-string.
I've
And
had
I just
7
say,
strings in my hands. Yeah, go ahead.
okay, but if I told you, close your eyes and just play normally,
Right.
you would probably not trip with the 7-string. You'd probably just play your normal stuff. So that's the first thing that you have to do. Most folks try to start to integrate it maybe a little too soon. Just get used to seeing it there first.
Right.
See, just for maybe a couple of days, and then start saying, well, the first thing to do is just drop this down an octave on very obvious choices.
Right, sure.
C chord. Just very obvious things that we have to do, and then after that, it's then you can start to really explore.
Right.
And then then walking bass line. So if I'm doing a walking bass line, it really sets me up to go down instead of going. I can go. You see what I'm saying? Same
Yeah,
thing
absolutely.
With
I love this.
Same
I
thing
love
with
that.
bossa nova stuff. I see people who do drop tunings and stuff. You
Yeah.
get a 7-string, you don't have to worry about
You have to think about it. So
No.
on your TrueFire classes,
Sure.
do you focus on 6-string or 7-string or what? What's going on with that? Talk to me about
Well,
your TrueFire class.
that's a great question. My first TrueFire course, which I've done one so far,
Mhm.
one master class, and that one was, I would say, about 80% of it was more of my linear concepts, how to handle, soloing over tunes or soloing over certain changes. So it did. I actually used this guitar. I used my 7 string, and I don't think it's that really affected people. I haven't heard any comments about let's say negative comments that people
Right,
were confused by the 7 string being there.
right.
But however, I am going in a few weeks, towards the 3rd week of August. I'm going to be going to back down to St. Petersburg, Florida, to record my next 2 courses.
Okay.
One is going to be a comping master class, so it'll be just as involved as my first master class, but it will be strictly on how I handle harmony and how to comp. Um, and so that I will be using a 6 string, because
Okay.
well, first, I think the TrueFire folks figured that would definitely trip up the student a little bit more. And if I had a 7 string, and I wholeheartedly agree with them on that.
Right.
So I'm going to be using a 6 string.
Yeah, I think that I think that makes sense actually, because it's
Sure,
difficult to follow it if you're not used to looking at it. I'll
sure.
be honest, it's difficult for me to follow. And now, I mean, I think you're right. I think teaching that class with a 6 string would be a good thing to do.
Mhm.
So you've got one class down at TrueFire master class there now, and you're about to go down and record
Yes.
two more.
Yeah.
And
So
then
I'm doing that one, and I'm doing one that's on it's actually a course on, like a licks course,
right,
30 essential licks,
right.
and so
Well, you've
um
been you've been doing lick of the week for us at
yes,
Jazz Guitar Today now for several months. I mean, many months.
yes, since the
It's
first of the year.
Yeah, it's a popular series, and we appreciate what you're doing there. For people who don't know, Ted publishes about every 2 weeks, I guess it is, isn't it?
Hmm.
About every 2 weeks, a fresh lick, and it's really more than a lick. It's more of a like a 2 or a 4 bar line or something like that. I mean, it's not
Sure.
it's not like a lick. So it's really every one of them is a master lesson, to be honest, for people transitioning and getting more and more deep in the language. So that's lick of the week on Jazz Guitar Today. I was
And
going to
those
ask
have
you,
been really fun. And the thing is too, is
people
that
love them.
I always like to use the lick of the week as a way to sort of just introduce a concept,
Sure.
because there is thought behind any line that you play. And so my goal with that is not only to teach someone a lick, but to also show them, well, if I apply this particular concept, I can
Right.
create my own
Right.
lines, because that's really the point of teaching,
Right.
is not to make people sound like you. I mean, that's
Right.
really not. It's to try to help people to get the basics of how to play this language, so that they can sound like them. And
Yeah.
that's the beautiful thing about this.
Teach them the language so they can express themselves.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it is a language. It is a language.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah,
to stress that.
we talk about that all the time. The fact that it is a language, and
It is a language. And so you deal with this as a teacher. If someone's trying to learn to play this type of music, it's like you have to check out the players who've come before you, but you need to check out the current players, and you need to learn the language. And the language, which is really cool, has many dialects.
right.
It's the same language, but it has many dialects, just like, so if you look at it like that and say, well, I really like the Wes Montgomery style or the Grant Green style. And then, or you might say, well, I really like more of the Kurt Rosenwinkel thing, or
Right.
I really like the John Scofield thing, or I really like the Peter Bernstein thing, or,
Right.
the Ted Ludwig thing, or whoever it is. I'm just, these are all like dialects. It's our own way of interpreting that language.
What musicians did you and do you listen to? Who have you drawn most of your influence from, other than your teachers?
Well, let's start with guitar players, because I
You
think
know,
that's the one that most people ask me about first.
not
So
necessarily.
Well, I mean, my huge influences would definitely be Joe Diorio. I mean, I
Okay.
love Joe Diorio, and I loved his whole concept about chordal harmony, and I use it quite a bit in my own playing. Pat Martino, definitely.
Hmm.
Wes, Jim Hall, love Jim Hall. Um, I mean, Steve Mazakowski, definitely, because I really liked his more sort of way of handling chromaticism,
Hmm.
and also his chordal harmony things. And then Peter Bernstein has been a big influence, and I think on the entire guitar world, is he's one of the most influential guitarists of this generation, if not the most influential
And
guitar.
why do you, what about Peter? And we've interviewed Peter. We love Peter. I mean, he's phenomenal. But from your perspective, what about his playing is like special? I don't have a better word than special. I mean,
Well,
what sets?
well, first of all, Pete's a very sophisticated musician. He brings a sophistication that may be more related to like what a pianist would have. Like he
Hmm.
brings that level of harmonic sophistication. But I think the thing that draws my ear to Pete's playing is that he really understands how to build a solo,
Hmm.
how to really use a less is more approach, but then he finds the place that he really wants to create an impact
Right.
for your ears. So when you're listening to him, you're listening, and then all of a sudden it's like there's something that stretches and surprises the ear, and
Right.
then he releases that, and it's like, well,
Right.
so what he's actually doing, and I try to do this in my playing as well, is he creates tension and release. He's
Right.
creating tension and release, and I've heard people say, "Oh man, he's got me on the edge of my seat." Well, there's a reason why. It's I mean, of course, there's always an artistic way of explaining it, but there's also a concrete way of explaining it. And that's how he's finding certain parts in the tune
Right.
to create tension and release.
Right.
Uh, and there's lots of different ways to do that. And so that when I first heard that, it really had a big impact, because he wasn't just making the changes, he was making the changes, and he found a way to really, like, I couldn't wait to hear the next thing that he played.
What he does to me anyway, and this is about the highest compliment I can pay any musician, is he doesn't play his instrument, he plays music.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
He doesn't play like a guitar player.
Right.
So,
Right.
so he's been a huge impact on me and lots of other guitar players. And it's there's no doubt about it. And plus he's a great guy,
Oh
and we've
yeah.
become very dear friends over. I mean, I took a lesson with him. I was like, I guess maybe 21, and he was in his early 30s, maybe, I
Hmm.
guess, something like that. And we just sat and played tunes. He's like, "Oh man, you're playing. Let's just play." We just sat and played tunes for 3 hours, and then he just kind of said, he gave me a couple things to check out, and I got so much out of that,
Hmm.
and so yeah, definitely Peter, and of course Steve Mazakowski
Hmm.
has been a huge impact on me. There's another gentleman that a lot of people have not heard of, that is really one of the true pioneers of New Orleans jazz guitar teaching, and he's the guy that really anyone good that's come out of New Orleans has studied with him, and
Hmm.
it's Hank Mackey.
Okay.
And so Hank Mackey is, and he's still around, he's still gigging, he's still teaching, uh, but he had a huge impact on me, because
Right.
he has this uncanny ability to recognize talent in a player, and really get you to a certain level, and he has a real gift of really being able to teach sort of the more old school ways,
Right.
of playing. And so, yeah, it was great. I've studied with him, and of course some other people that have had huge impacts on me. The great Ron Eshday, 7-string player. He was the
Hmm.
guy that really convinced me to start playing seven.
Hmm.
So I learned quite a bit from him. And then, I took lessons from anybody I could,
Hmm.
you know,
Sure.
just sit down and play. I took a couple of lessons from Joe Diorio, and took took lessons from Larry Coryell, just sit down and play tunes with Larry. And we ended up doing some concerts together. But, you know, we just sit and play. And then Larry, you know, Larry will just say, hey, man, you know, pay attention to this or check out this ending or whatever. Just show me some, just give me some pointers. And you pick up little things here and there from lots of different players.
I loved Larry's playing. You know,
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was a real great guy. And of course, another, and we talked about this the other day, but another person that's been a very dear friend and has become more currently you know, important in my life is Jimmy Bruno. Jimmy's a really good guy, and we talk a lot about the business and about, you know, just the whole world of guitar.
Just today, we published my interview with Jimmy, so it's up and running right now. So when you later on, if you get some time, go check out what Jimmy had to say. We talked for over 2 days. We talked.
Wow,
that's really cool. We're running out of time. Is there anything else you'd like to address while we're here? I've got a couple of things I want to say about you in a second here. But is there something you'd like to?
I mean, if I'm good.
You're good.
But hey, keep your eye out for the new TrueFire courses, and you know, I'm going to keep producing more licks of the week, and you know, I've been enjoying doing that. And thanks for having me be a part of Jazz Guitar Today.
Well, these conversations that we're doing, we're keeping them kind of you know, believe it or not, we've been talking for over half an hour, which is
wow.
Yeah, I mean, it goes fast, and
does go fast.
And just, you know, behind the curtain, there's a lot of editing that has to go on to it, you know. So like, the more we talk, the longer it becomes more than what we can actually absorb. But so that's why we try to do as many as we can. But you know, and one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about your own personal playing, because after all, you know, you do all these things. You're a great ambassador for jazz guitar. I mean, your whole life seems to be permeated with jazz guitar in the community, and everybody knows who you are. You're having an influence on a lot of people, which is great. But not only that, you're a hell of a player. I mean, it's one thing. There are a lot of guys that, you know, that have an influence. They do this. They don't think they know everybody. They're at all the shows and all that. But you know, they're not really players. You know, I mean, you are a player. You are a performer. You could put everything down and just be a guy that plays, you know, touring guy, whatever. And, you know, your quality is you're right up there with the rest of them. But one of the things I've noticed in your playing is your incredible accuracy. I mean, when you play, you know, your accuracy and the consistency of, and you're talking about the guitar is consistent, right? You know, in its tone from top to bottom. But you know, somebody actually has to make that happen too. And your consistency of note productions is as good as anybody I've ever heard. I mean, those bebop lines that you play, they just pop out of that instrument. And you know, a lot of guys, you know, they'll, you know, let's say there's 20 notes in a phrase, you know, in a linear phrase. You know, there might be 2 or 3 of those notes that, you know, they're not quite there. They're not what I would call ghost notes, but they're not, you know, they miss them a little bit. You know, it's like miss hitting a tennis ball or a base. You still get a hit, but you didn't get it all. You know what I mean? But you don't seem to, you know, you seem to get it all. I mean, I'm sure you feel differently. You're probably going, but you know, your technique is from my ears is flawless. I mean, it's just amazing. Is it always been that way, or is that something you're conscious of, or, you know?
Actually, you know, it's great that you're saying that, because it's one thing that Steve tried to instill in me, and it's something that one of the most important lessons that he told me was when I first started playing guitar. I played like most people, where you play each individual. I can't even play this way anymore, but where the notes don't really connect in a way. And what I mean by that is there's a certain attenuation, and it's what the arch top gives us. Well, you know, most players, when they come to the arch top, right, which you and I both know, and anybody who has an arch top, is a different instrument. It's a different, you know, monster compared to like a Strat or a Tele or a Les Paul or some sort of
you mean a Strat?
Yeah, like a Strat or wait a minute, or you got a Tele there,
or a Tele,
Oratelli, that's right.
I actually, my arch top is, wait a minute, hang on a second. Okay, one of my, I'm gonna go off camera for a second. Don't go away.
All right, all right. All right, that's beautiful.
Well, this is not your normal arch top.
It's beautiful though.
This is, hang on a second. Somebody's, what's going on here? What just happened? Cancel that. Let me see. What can I say? I don't know what you can see, but it didn't. So yeah, this is a Frank Vignola model, but it's a custom.
Right.
You know, one of the Ryan Thorell guitars.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, when you make, you know, I mean, you know, you have to be conscious of it. It's a very different. It's a very different
Well,
thing.
it's a different animal, and so I mean, one thing that I practiced is if I was playing on a particular chord or playing a particular line, I used to focus on keeping the fingers down. So instead of, you know, which is shorter, I tried to really. So it's just about keeping the fingers down.
Right.
So you want the notes. You don't want,
Right. Right. Right.
The other thing that I feel that's important is, and I kind of tripped up a little bit just because
Well, you're not warmed up.
I'm not really super warmed up right now, but you know, one thing that I always tried to focus on is trying to make my pull-offs and hammer-ons strong enough to where it doesn't sound super different, like too different sonically than picking the notes. So it's a combination of a couple of things, like softening your attack on your pick. I mean, if we, there's something that I call it your median level of how loud you play. So if you bring that down, first of all, when you want an accent to happen, and this would be like say a wavelength of how high the note can go, or how, you know, how low you could get that note to go, right? And so if we
so people understand, you're talking amplitude wise.
And yes, yes, exactly. If your normal playing is up here,
you got nowhere to go.
We don't really hear much as far as notes, like if you really want to accent something. So what I do is I actually want to bring that, what I call your median level, or your sort of bass level. I want to bring it down here, so that way when I'm playing, like everything in a normal volume, you know. So then when I want notes to stick out, so you I can get those to come out. You see what I'm saying? So you get that, you know, you get the certain jump out, and that's really important. And also keeping the fingers really down into the notes, and then making sure that your hammer-ons and pull-offs are strong, and that they don't overpower your picking. Usually it's the opposite, though. I find with a lot of people that their picking is strong, and then their hammer-ons and pull-offs will be not as strong. You can really hear the difference. Where you want, I mean, you can hear the difference, but it's not like huge, you know. You know.
So do me a favor. Do another pull-off. Go ahead. Just, you know, B to A, I guess you're playing, or is it F sharp?
I was playing F sharp to E.
F sharp to E. Okay, and then hit the two notes. You know, actually play the. Now pull it off again. So if you put that in a phrase, you know, it's a different thing, and it's speed.
So watch.
Exactly. Right.
So.
Right.
So you couldn't tell which one was hammered and which ones was picked. Those were hammered. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, pulled
So
off.
pulled off, yeah. And there's a, it used to be for a long time, hammer-ons and pull-offs were really poo-pooed. You're supposed to pick every freaking note. The problem with that is
but then it doesn't sound horn-like.
it sounds
So like
awful.
if you play a
Right.
line like this,
Right.
very common, very, very
Right.
common phrase. It's one of the early phrases we learned when we learned jazz.
Right.
You don't go. It's
Right.
it's pulled off.
Yeah. It breathes. It speaks. It breathes.
So you can get, like, if you're playing a 2/5.
I think of it as getting rid of the harpsichord effect.
Exactly. So it becomes smoother. And the thing is like a lot of players have gone to like more semi-hollow body type of guitars because
got one of those earlier too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the semi-hollow body does a couple of things. I mean, we have to look at what are really the weaknesses. So we can truly understand how to play. And that's just what I try to think about is what are the weaknesses of the guitar? Well,
right.
First of all, and we have advantages too. We have some really great advantages. I think our biggest advantage is ability to transpose. We can transpose very easily, where other instruments have to actually think of changing the notes. If I say play an A major scale and I say play an A flat major scale, let's just simply move the scale down one fret, or one position, whereas other instruments have to change all the notes up, right, to accommodate the key.
My example for that is that on a guitar, you go this.
Yeah.
Ask a piano player to do that.
Yeah, they have to change all the individual notes.
He's tying his fingers. He's tying his fingers in knots. Yeah.
So that is our advantages, but we do have a lot of disadvantages. The first disadvantage is that we cannot crescendo. We can tremolo pick and make the tremolo get louder, but naturally, without any kind of electronics involved, we can't naturally crescendo. When we hit this note, it immediately starts to decay.
Right.
And the arch top, because of the nature of the arch top, that decay is faster than, say, like on your Telly or on your Strat back that we just saw a minute ago.
Right.
That decay is going to happen much quicker.
Right.
And so that connection between the notes is really important, because these big arch tops, and this is a 3-inch depth guitar, these things, they throw the sound out, but they pull in some of the sound too. And that decay happens. We have this, and then that note starts to do that. Of course, on your better instruments, excuse me, you can get better, it depends on the type of wood used and how the instrument's crafted. You can get better sustain, but the inherent nature of these boxes is that the note's only there for a certain amount of time. Right. So a lot of players have switched to a semi-hollow body because they also put more effects on the guitar, which is great. They put more effects on their sound to sort of make up some of what they're actually, because you're losing some of the tone quality that a semi-hollow body will never sound like a full arch top. It's just a different quality of sound. And so, but I've always fallen in love with the sound of the arch top. I love the sound of the full hollow body. And although I would like to get a nice semi-hollow body for certain types of gigs, which I don't really have one. Yeah, and then I have some other really cool guitars that I'd love to show because I think it would just be cool to show you. I have I have two really incredible other instruments and they're both 7-strings. This one is made by a great maker in California named Tom Rebecki.
Right.
I put a little piece of felt right here, so that's what that is. But this guitar is really amazing. It's this is Buttercup, and
Ah,
yeah, I love this guitar. I'm gonna switch to this one for a second, and then I have this other guitar here, which is a Wilkie,
mhm.
which is really, and his guitars are really they have a special sound too. But the Rebecca, let me put this pick here. Um, but this is the Rebecca, little different, little bit different sound, but similar. It's still a full arch top. It's actually set a little hotter. Let me turn the volume down. Sweet guitar.
Lovely voice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Very
got,
nice.
and the same thing here. It has this great, upper, really nice, sweet. I really, that's one thing that I look for in an arch top is how it's going to play up there, because I play in that range,
Right. Very nice.
Yeah,
That's
sorry.
great stuff. Ted, we really got to run, man. This has been great. Been really, really great.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you coming on.
So
And this last we went about 15 minutes over, and because we were talking about some really, really good things, and we'll just make it work. But
sure.
man, listen, it's not like I'm saying goodbye, because we talk all the time, and you're a member of the family, and we're gonna bring you back on, and
Sure.
when you
Love
got the
to.
courses out, we'll talk about those, and when you get your new record out, of course, we'll talk about that, and so it's not a one and done. I mean,
Of
so
course.
we'll get you back. So I am going to say goodbye. That was incredible music you just played.
Thank you.
I will say one thing before I
That's Joe
go.
Pass. That was Joe Pass tune.
Beautiful. But what I was going to say is that Tom Rebecca had a lot of influence on Ryan Thorell, the guy that made. I have 3 arch
Yeah.
tops from Ryan, and
Yeah.
I've got a guitar that's that exact same color. Exactly. I
Really.
mean, oh yeah, it's like, because
Yeah. This guitar is just a
it's
masterpiece.
almost like a caramel.
Look.
Yeah, I could. It's over there in the case. I could bring it out and show you. It's
Yeah. And this
almost.
is, let me just show you just real fast. Here's the
Yeah,
Wilkie. That's a great guitar too. And
yeah.
I've got a bunch of things I've played with it. And look, none of these guitars are in any particular order. It's just what I
Right.
grabbed, the
I
particular.
understand. There, you got
They're all my babies. And
you got a
one thing I want to say
Ferrari.
before,
You got a Ferrari and a Lamborghini, and you got to and you got to make a decision which one you're going to jump in that day. I get it.
one thing I want to say, man, and really this is just I think people need to notice is I really applaud what you guys are doing at
Oh
Jazz
man.
Guitar today, because
Well,
without that, I mean, we've got nothing out there. I mean, we had this, just Jazz Guitar has been gone for a long time, and I'm sure glad that you guys picked up the torch and are continuing, because continuing it on, you and Joe and everyone at Jazz Guitar today, because we really need you guitar players, man. We really need this.
subscribe to me. I appreciate you saying that. I just want to make sure you
Yes.
mention, Joe Perry is, we're partners in this, along
Sure.
with Raul and Valerie Amador, and it's a team, and you know, everybody, people see me obviously, but believe me, I'm probably the least of the team compared to what those people do. That's Joe Perry and Raul and Valerie Amador.
Absolutely. Yeah, Joe's great.
They're phenomenal people. Anybody that's interacted with them knows that's why the magazine looks so good, you know. So with that, I'm going to say thank you. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it. You're a wonder. You're really great, and what you're doing,
Thank you so
what
much.
you do for jazz guitar is huge. It's an inspiration. So thanks, Ted.
Thanks,
We'll
Bob.
talk soon. All right.
Okay, be good. We'll
All right.
talk soon. Stay
You
safe.
too.
All right.
Bye bye.